within their family that's already a trustee. They also have to be a property owner in good standing. Now, that's a pretty broad statement, and I really don't like it either because it can be so broad. However, in the case of the Ernst, what finally happened, the covenants state that a septic inspection needs to be performed, all right, anytime a property changes hands. And it's a property that has a septic system. Anytime the property changes hands, the covenants say that at that time, a septic inspection needs to occur. All right. For about a year, the board allowed and kept working with the Ernst to get that inspection. Many times asking for it during meetings, during private meetings between the board and the Ernst, and that inspection just didn't occur. It was on August 2nd, I believe, where a letter went out to the Ernst to say, hey, you got 30 days, get this inspection. This is not a repair, this is just an inspection. And so, since it was after July 31st, then that's unfortunately is when the election committee got involved in it and had to, okay, it's an outstanding issue, and theoretically, as of that point, they were not compliant. Now, realize that our election committee, our job is to qualify candidates, yes, but it's also to encourage participation with Andrews Creek. And so we tried to work with the Ernst. Even at one point in time, I was on the phone with them and said, can you get me a letter from the certified inspector, a licensed inspector, that states that you will, and that he's got it scheduled, that it's been committed, that he'll do the inspection. All right, I couldn't get that from them. All right, and that's all I was asking. I was saying, just get me a letter that might even though it's after the qualification period, that it's scheduled and that they're going to do it. Hang on, just let me finish my description here. All right. And so I couldn't get that. Now, when we finally did approve Jay, it was after we were informed by them that there was no water running in the house, the septic was not being used, and instead of septic, they were using a porta potty.
We do have one.
And that seemed reasonable. That, along with the fact that obviously if it's not being used, it's pretty hard to inspect it. And so that's what allowed, and it was late. I mean, it was right before the mailings, because it took a while to get this far. But that was when we went ahead and allowed Jay to be certified, to be a candidate. All right. It was, I've got the dates, but basically let's just say September 16th or 15th, when it was learned through a trustee visit to the location that actually the septic had been on, water had been on, and the septic had been in use. And actually at the time of their visit, the septic tank was either at or very near overflow and was actually being pumped out by a septic tank pump company. And so it was at that point that it was determined that there was significant problem. That was after the deadline and after the ballots were mailed, but before the election. And so that's what put this whole thing into jeopardy. Jake, you had another question?
So you, as the election committee or the trustees, when inspected this system, seen it was dry, gave him the approval to be on the ballot. They go back again and they see water in the septic system, so you're assuming that they were using it. Am I correct?
Actually, you're not quite right. Jake's question was, wait a minute, we saw that it was dry, and then we went back and saw that it was being pumped out. Actually, what happened on the first step is basically the Ernst committed to me that it was not being used, and that they were using a porta potty. And at that point in time, there were a couple of attorneys were talking back and forth a little bit too. And so, in order to know a little bit better, I actually drove by there and I saw, what I saw was that they did have a porta potty. All right? I relayed that to the attorney, and the attorney said, you know, it makes sense. He's got a porta potty. It seems reasonable that you go ahead and certify this guy. Well, the problem is that that was not, and we found out a month later or 3 weeks later that that was not the case. And so here's the deal. It's the election committee certified this individual after you guys and I had multiple conversations with these folks. All right? And again, my goal was to figure out a way that Jay could be certified to stand as a candidate. But then what tipped the scales, quite honestly, because I could not get them to actually schedule an inspection. All right? And at that point, that's all, I was fine with just get it scheduled, okay? And
You want an inspection, pass or fail, you just want an inspection.
I just wanted an inspection. And actually, at that point, I was even happy to just get a schedule for an inspection.
Correct.
All right? And then at that, and so that plus, okay, so I wasn't able to get that, but then when I did hear that they weren't even using it, they didn't have water running through it, all right? Then it was at that point where I go, well, that's kind of reasonable. Pretty hard to schedule an inspection if there's no water running, if there's no water, nothing in use in that septic system. And they had a porta potty. All right, so I drove by, verified that they had a porta potty, and that's when I texted Jay to inform him that we would be allowing him. And I took a little bit of, I mean, at that point, Jake, I was kind of taking the lead on the election committee thing. But at that point, I felt comfortable that things have been honestly represented. All right. I found out 3 weeks later, after the ballots had already been sent, that was not the case. And that's what spun this thing in.
So to satisfy the election committee, he just needed an inspection, pass or fail. Just give us an inspection, let us know what your septic system is doing. Am I correct?
Actually, that was at that point, because see, let's say it had failed.
If it fails, you got to get time to give him to work on.
Yeah, then you get a permit, or you get it coordinated through the county. And
You get a contract.
Yeah, but that's all we were looking. We were just looking for the inspection, and honestly, it was the Covenants Committee was trying to work very honestly with everybody involved.
I know I just went together, sold my house. I got an inspection, everything's good to go.
Yeah.
All right.
How do we know?
You know, because the seller needs to get the inspection. The buyer wants the inspection, right?
Correct.
Because otherwise you get saddled with a big expense somewhere. And a buyer could. Yeah, back here.
First, thank you for your professionalism in handling this and being transparent. I think that's a pretty big deal, especially when you're reading things all over Facebook that people are making wild accusations. So I appreciate you being willing to chat with everybody. Second, can you please cite the authority that permits the election committee to change the rules once someone is certified? I haven't found anything in writing nor a Missouri statute anywhere that would indicate that the election committee has the power and authority to uncertify someone after the fact. In fact, it says you certify them, you put their name on the ballot, it's done.
Absolutely.
That is correct.
Okay. I can't defend that. Can't defend it. I found the reason the individual was certified.
Then why isn't he seated?
Let him speak. Let him go.
The reason he was certified and the premise that he was certified under was false. it was a total misrepresentation.
So do
And-
you think perhaps there was a misrepresentation to all the property owners by the election committee when you put him on a ballot? He was allowed to campaign, he placed signs, we all asked questions. I didn't know the man personally. And then we chose, based on the information we had available to us by the statement that came out to us in the mailed ballots that says he is one of our candidates. And at no point in time until our appearance here on Saturday, turning in our votes, was it represented by the election committee, hey, by the way, just kidding, we've changed our minds. And you're standing there telling me there is no citation, no authority that gave the election committee any opportunity to change that.
You know, I think the election committee is tasked with the responsibility to make sure that what they do certify, all right, to the best of our ability is accurate. And we ask for accurate representation in return and honest representation in return. And when we find out after the mailing goes out that was a total misrepresentation, then the election committee has to do, yeah, you're right. We've got two choices. We can either not say anything and allow that to flow through, or we can actually do the right thing
And revote.
and set that certification aside. All right. I just can't see the choice. I just can't see the choice that we had. And it's interestingly, the election committee had a long conversation about this on Wednesday evening, because it still goes back to, this election committee's got every one of them they got big hearts, and they want people to participate, and they want to feel what's good in people. And but at the end of the day, it's not right. It's not right, and I don't have any problem standing on that. Maybe some attorney would tell me different. I still wouldn't believe it.
I have the video.